microphone on now, Rich.
Zimmerman? Yvonne Andrews? Sonia Wilson?
Yeah.
And Michael Kearney?
Yes.
Not Sonia Wilson, Ronald Wilson.
Did you get Ronald Wilson and Yvonne Andrews?
Yep, I called you guys. I got you.
Okay.
Let's do, go over the approval of the minutes for June 20, I'm sorry, June 23rd, 2020. I have read them through, so I'll need a motion to accept those.
Motional.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from June 20th.
Do I have a second?
A second, we did not hear you. Ms. Yvonne, you're currently muted. If you have a second, we did not hear you.
I didn't say a thing. That was Ronald made a motion to accept the minutes.
And we need a second. I can't give a second.
How many people we have here today?
3.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we can't hear you at all. The volume is really, really low. I don't know if other people are having the same problem or not. This is Scott Walker speaking.
Testing. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Is that still too low?
It's way low. For some reason, it's I got you turned up 100% on my speaker here, and I don't know if other participants are having a
Can we turn that down?
difficulty in.
Is that better?
That is getting better. It's still quite low, though.
All right, we are having technical difficulties at this moment. What can we do to increase that? We're on maximum, right? All right, give us a moment.
You're getting better.
He said he's on maximum. You want me to try a different microphone?
We hear you real good. I don't know who can hear you, but we can hear him real good.
Okay, I think it's the attorney that has a hard time hearing me.
Yes, we're having a real hard
Get
time.
closer, is that okay?
For some reason. Yeah. No, that'll control our sound. Let me try it over here. Maybe that might be it. Let's try that.
Okay. I'll try and talk a little louder. If that's not too loud for Ronald or Yvonne.
You okay?
Okay, so we just got word that other people appear to be hearing me pretty good. So I don't know where the problem lies at this point. Can you hear me there now?
I can hear you, Chair Alderman, but it's very, very slight. I've got
What
you
about the?
up on the computer and the monitor.
Okay, what about Yvonne and Ronald? Are you able to hear them as well? Can they give you a 3 count or something?
1, 2, 3, 10, 4. You're doing good.
And then I'm also getting messages from people on the that they can't see the video, I think is what it is. Let me see.
That's correct, Mr. Attorney. The video is not turned on for Ronald Wilson's account. We can hear it.
From Nicholas Wilson to all panelists, we cannot see any of the members in the meeting, only the city boardroom and the attorney. We can hear you, we just can't see the members.
Okay, well, if you're looking at the planning board meeting, you're at least seeing me.
And I can see you as well.
Right. Mr. Wilson does not have his camera turned on.
We don't have camera. We don't want y'all to see us.
That's their choice. They don't want to be seen, but they are here in voice. Okay, we still have a motion to approve last month's minutes. I need a second. What's our status on, if there's no second, we'll just approve the minutes? Do we stop right there? Table the minutes? Or table, this doesn't look good for us. Okay. Well, we can't get a second for the approval of the minutes.
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, we have Yvonne Andrews is present and Ronald Wilson is present. Do either of you wish to second the motion? I
Ronald
think
Wilson
Yvonne may
has
have made the
first
motion,
reading.
so does Ronald made the motion? Ronald made the motion, so Yvonne, will you second the motion? Ms. Yvonne, can you hear me?
I second the motion for whatever it was y'all wanted me to do.
We have a second for the approval of last month's minutes. Can we just do it? We don't have to do a roll call.
There
We
was
can just say,
some omission on the minutes that I remember seeing on there. And there was something about when I cautioned Mr. Alderman about the fact of trying to make a motion. And I noticed that was omitted on the minutes, but I'll let that slip on you all this time.
we thank you. All right, we have a first and a second for approval of last month's minutes with a note that there was a possible omission in last month's minutes. I guess it goes to a vote. We just all say aye. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chair, go ahead and do a roll call,
Aye.
if you would, please.
Let's do a roll call vote. That's from the
And
attorney.
before we call for a vote, procedurally, since we're in a webinar format, you're going to need to advise everyone that is in the chat room that if they wish to comment on any of the matters that we intend to vote on, that they should use the raise your hand function, or they should somehow notify by waving their hand like this that they wish to be allowed into the meeting, and they can then comment. So I'm not sure who on behalf of the city is managing the attendees to this Zoom meeting, but they're going to have to watch that so that if anybody wants to comment on the motion, that they will be allowed to do so.
Mr. Attorney, this is Kevin. I'm monitoring the Zoom, and when we get to the public comment section, we'll be keeping an eye for the raise the hand function. We were going to make a statement about that too.
I don't know what's going on, but we moved as close as we can to the monitor. But we have somebody that's.
Okay, all right, we have a first and second approval minutes. Can we get a roll call vote on that? Yeah.
Yvonne?
Yes,
Yvonne Andrews? Okay, Ron Wilson?
Yes, approved.
And Don Alderman.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, I guess the first thing we're going to go on is the unfinished business resolution CPA 20-01. If I could get the attorney to read that out.
Yes, sir, happy to do so. Mr. Chair, this is a resolution of the City of High Springs Planning and Zoning Board. This is resolution number PB/LPA CPA 20-01, a resolution of the Plan Board of the City of High Springs, Florida, serving also as the local planning agency of the City of High Springs, Florida, recommending to the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, approval of an amendment of more than 10 acres of land to the future land use plan map of the City of High Springs Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 20-01 by the property owner of said acreage under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 of the Florida statutes as established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 of the Florida statutes, and as amended, providing for a change in the land use classification from county rural agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to city residential rural, 1 dwelling unit per 5 gross acres to 1 dwelling unit per gross acre of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. At the appropriate time, the motion will be to pass resolution number PB-LPA CPA 2001. And Mr. Chair, this is a quasi judicial proceeding. So if anyone desires to testify here this evening, if they'll push the raise your hand function and we'll recognize them. If they would announce their names, we will swear them in right now, if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so was it raise your hand button? And they will link you in and then swear you in. If you do not swear in on this, you will not be allowed to speak later on in the meeting on this subject.
And Mr. Chair, it looks to me like we have a number of people that are raising their hand right now.
That's correct, Mr. Attorney. We're bringing them in one by one. We'll give
Okay.
folks another minute or so to raise their hands,
Sure.
and we'll swear everyone in. Mr. Attorney, can you see all the names on the screen in front of you?
I can see, I'll enlarge it a little bit and then I can see everybody.
Are we supposed to be on there?
Yes, we've already,
We're supposed to see ourselves?
Mr. Attorney, if you can't see the names, I can read them off for you if you like.
I think I can see everybody now. If you would, please raise your right hand and you will be sworn. This is David Coven, Garrett Busby, Mabel Blake, Carrie Lee, Nicholas Wilson, Michael Nordine, and Elliot. Those are the people that have raised their hands. Looks like it's a total of 8 people. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Dennis Lee.
Dennis Lee,
I do.
David Norton, I do.
Garrett Busby, I do.
Nicholas Wilson, I do.
Mr. Chair,
Mabel
I believe
Blake.
everyone has been sworn.
I do.
David Coven, I do.
Mabel,
Is that everyone? I think it's everyone. Okay.
Did you say that? Michael Norton.
Michael Norton, did you, I didn't hear my name.
And when they come up, I'll tell them to mute their speakers, won't we? I mean, but when they want to speak, they'd have to turn their speakers off. Okay. So everybody's been sworn in. I want to hold on just a second and make a statement that this past month, I've actually met with Mr. Cole and talked to Garrett Busby. He called me about the letter and if I understood its information. And Mr. Cole, I met with him and he was kind enough to drive me around the property to show me actually what was the boundaries of the properties and the homes around that. We didn't discuss any policies or anything of that such. It was more of an information gathering. Okay, so I guess at this point, we want to open up to a public hearing and public input. I believe if you want to speak, wave your hand and Kevin will link you in one at a time.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if anyone would like to
Exactly
speak.
right. And the first step of the procedure is to provide the rest of the panel or our planning and zoning board, if you've had any ex parte communications, meaning if you've talked to anybody, and it's perfectly allowed under Florida law to do that. You can talk to your constituents. In fact, it's anticipated that you would talk to your constituents. So what we need to do now for the other members of the planning and zoning board, if they've had any communications with any other folks or on this particular project, then if you will state that now so that we have that on record, please.
So if any other board members met with anyone involved with this property or about this property or this particular topic?
So Ms. Yvonne, if you've had any discussions with anyone related to this project outside of this hearing, you should tell us, and Ronald, same way, please.
someone.
Go ahead, say it now again.
Ronald Wilson, I have not had any conversations with anyone about this property. As a matter of fact, I have done a lot of studying, and there were times that I wish I could have talked to someone about it.
Okay.
Yvonne Andrews, I talked with the city about it, get in my paperwork.
Mr. Chair, I believe we've covered that point, and now it will be time for, under our procedures that we have for quasi-judicial procedures, it is time for city staff to provide an overview of the application. And if Ms. Christie is with us, if you could give us a brief overview, that would be very helpful, please.
Okay, Christie.
So essentially for this project, CPA 2001, it's just switching the county designation for the land use to city designation for land use.
Is that it, Christie?
That's it.
Your mic's off.
That's it. It's very straightforward, just switching county designation, city designation.
All right, next is the applicant can present its case. Mr. Chair, I don't want to step on your toes if.
No, I appreciate it. So it's up to, Mr. Busby? If he'd like to make a statement.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think our position is clear. I think just like the last meeting, the charge is simple for the plan board meeting. As was stated, we were bringing the property out of the county into the city. We just need to assign it a land use classification and a zoning that conforms with the city. Be glad to answer other questions. I think I probably clarified our position in the last meeting and with a letter that was sent out. So I'm hoping that resolves any questions on our part. So.
Okay, thank you. I guess the next would be open it to other public input from other people that are logged in. If you want to speak, wave your hand and Kevin will link you in.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, use the raise your hand function within Zoom. We'll announce your name and we'll bring you in. You'll have your 3 minutes to speak. So if anyone would like to speak now, please utilize the raise your hand function in Zoom. I will announce your name and bring you in. Mr. Chair, we have no hand raised at this time. Oh, take that back. We've got David Cohen raising his hand. And we're bringing Mr. Cohen in.
Yes. The only question I want to ask the board is, under the zoning regulations or whatever you're going to approve by, what is the maximum number of houses that can be built on that 65 acres?
Well, that's the next step, sir. Right now, we're just giving it this particular resolution is taking it from county agricultural to city residential rural.
Then I re-ask.
This is all we're talking about.
Yeah, I understand.
That's a different process. We're not doing zoning at this point. This is land use. We need to approve this because they've left the county and are going into the city. We have to give it a land use. And then the next thing that we'll concern ourselves with is the zoning of that.
All right, I stand in reserve.
Right. Anybody else like to speak?
Mr. Chair, Mabel Blake raised her hand. Ms. Blake, if you unmute yourself and speak. Ms. Blake.
Yes. My name is Mabel Blake. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Can you
my
hear
name
me?
is Mabel Blake. And what I have a question on is that you all, in reference to you approving this CPA 20-1, is that the currency management assessment that I believe is very outdated and don't pertain to the property. That's what I have concern about when they're using Highway 27, 41, and 441, a soil sample from 1985, and it's not really related to the property off of 236, 210. So that's what I have a question about in reference to this being approved based on something that's, to me, is not related to the property.
Well, those actually aren't related to this particular resolution. This is
I'm
just
sorry?
changing the land use.
But I
What you're talking
understand.
about would come up later in zoning.
Well, this is on your CPA 20-01.
That's correct. We're
Concurrency.
changing land use.
Yeah, your concurrency management assessment is on your CPA 20-01. That's what I was in reference to.
Stand by just a second. What's she referencing?
I think it's unlocked.
Right.
It's just a general overview. No studies are done until later. It's not specific.
Okay, it's a general overview. No studies are done until later on that. That's right now, it's just a general overview on that. Was it a concurrency?
Yes. I'm
So
just looking at,
Sorry. The currency management report, so it's very general. It's just a document that goes over a little bit of information, preliminary. All studies will be done later when there's actually a subdivision proposed, so this is just a classification.
On this if they give us a chance.
They will.
Okay.
I've raised my hand.
my question, oh, okay. Is this the same document that's used on all your CPAs 20-01? Is this your generic one that's used anytime you're ready to approve this?
No, this is specific for this particular 20-01. With 20-01 is specific to this. When we have other resolutions, they are different. They'll have their own specifics for it.
They're on specific numbers and
Okay.
they're generated by the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council, so they create the document themselves after reviewing the information.
Okay. All right, it's very generic. And my other question is, I mean, not a question, it's a statement. Based on that, I have yours packet. If you're gonna approve that document, your date is June the 23rd. Today is July the 28th. Just
No,
for
that's
your
the
information.
approval of minutes from June 23rd. That was, if you're looking at, is that what she's looking at? The,
Looking at your packet for today,
oh, hold on a second.
says June 23rd.
Mr. Chair, she's referencing the date that's listed on the resolution, and we will need to change that to today's date. It was prepared for the last time we met, I think. And so
Okay, so we just make an amendment on that?
That's fine, Mr. Mayor.
Or do we do it in this meeting, or is that just can be done through paperwork?
You can do that in this meeting.
Okay, should I wait to the end of this, or we do the amendment now?
You can do the amendment right now. That's fine.
Okay, then I need a motion to change the amendment for resolution number CPA 20-01 to today's current date. I need a motion for that.
Make a motion, we change the date to today's date.
And I need a second.
Member Wilson, second.
Okay, can we do a roll call, Kristen?
Vaughn Andrews,
Yay.
Ronald Wilson,
Yes.
Donald Alderman.
Aye. All right, so that's been passed and the date has been changed to today's date. Would you like to add anything else, Ms. Blake?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak?
Mr. Chair, we have two more people who would like to speak. Michael
Okay.
Norton, I will allow you to speak. Mr. Norton, if you want to unmute yourself, you can speak.
My first question is, what is the minimum size lots for this R1 classification in view of the fact that there's no hookups available for sewer and water?
This has nothing to do with lot size at this point. We're just doing a land use
Okay.
from city,
Well, my
from
second
county ag
question,
to city residential.
right, yes. My second question is, what sort of notification are you giving the neighbors regarding these hearings and this potential zoning change? Because I haven't got any notification. I own property about 400 or 500 feet north of this planned development. And the first I heard of it was when my brother David informed me and sent me a mailing that he got. So that was my question. What sort of notification are you required to provide to neighbors?
Well, we're required, well, you want to go ahead?
Sorry, yeah, I know the answer to this one. So for the requirements for noticing based on our LDC and of Florida statutes for zoning specifically, that's when we send out the letters. But for land use, it's just a newspaper ad. And for the zoning, we also put a sign on the property. And for the letters, it's only the property owners within 300 feet. So 300 feet and in, get the letters, which were sent out 10 days prior as Florida statute dictates. And that's all that's required for those.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we have one more. Elliot, you will unmute.
This is,
Mr. Elliott, could you state your full name?
I don't know why it's coming up as Elliot. It's David Norden.
this is David Norden,
Okay, thank
David
you.
E. Norden.
Go ahead.
My problem with reverting from county to city is that I received a letter just recently from Double B Properties, and they said one of their reasons for reverting from county to city was keeping the impact fees for this development close to the community. But from what I understand, most of the people impacted by this development are actually county residents. We have no votes in the city of High Springs. The highway or the road that's going to be used is county maintained and will continue to be. So my assessment is that I don't even understand what the city of High Springs is providing for this development other than freedom to give them more streamlined zoning, whereas most of the people actually impacted are county and not city of High Springs residents, including myself, whose property is only about 20 feet across 210 from the property on the north side of it. So that's my problem with changing it to the city of High Springs, unless the city of High Springs provided access from the south where their municipality actually connects with it. And meanwhile, all of the residents impacted are actually county residents by the traffic, by whatever happens. And that's why I have a problem with the annexation itself.
Well, the annexation's already done. We're just giving it a land use. And by him coming into High Springs, he's just putting his tax money where the services he receives.
Excuse me, what services are they actually receiving from the city of High Springs?
Police and fire.
That's all? No, the
Whatever else.
electricity is going to come down a county road all the traffic is going to come down a county road. It just seems like an overreach by the city of High Springs. I'm sure what you've done is probably legal, otherwise the county would have challenged it. But meanwhile, it is county residents that will be the most impacted, and I don't see where county residents have any benefit from impact fees going to the city of High Springs. That is my problem with, as far as land use goes. I mean, I can't argue if they want to make residential, but the other question that I have is exactly what is the residential zoning requirement? And you've already told my brother that this obviously has nothing to do with this meeting, so I'd like to know what meeting it does. Because my understanding is that that would be about 1 unit per 5 acres.
No, it's going to be answered or talked about in this meeting, but this particular resolution is only for land use. If you have received a new business, it's been brought, the rezoning is going to be brought back up on number 2 of new business.
Okay, well, whatever. I hope you let us know.
Well, it's going to be tonight. You'll be watching.
By the county to the city.
That's my question. The question that I thought I was asked was why county to city? This is my response to why I'm annoyed by the county to city change in
It was
zoning.
voluntary.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I can try to help answer that question that was posed by Mr. Norden.
Please.
This is a voluntary annexation, so a contiguous landowner to the city's existing boundary petitioned to be voluntarily annexed to the city. And that happened some time ago. It was a voluntary annexation, meaning there's different types of annexations that cities engage in, but this was a voluntary annexation, meaning the property owner wished to be annexed, brought in to the city of High Springs. So we did that through an annexation ordinance that passed. And you're exactly right. We put the county on notice. We advertise in the newspapers. We do the statutory requisite notices in order to pass that ordinance, which is done on 2 separate occasions after a notice is published in the display part of the newspaper of general circulation. So that process has already occurred. The next
When
step
did that happen? Do you know?
is to rezone the property and also to change the future land use map. And right now we're in the process of changing the future land use map. And unless we take zoning authority over that property, we have to apply the county regulations, the county zoning, and the county processes with regard to that property. And it's a round peg in a square hole, because we don't have those regulations, we don't govern those regulations, and it becomes very difficult to do so. So right now, as our chair has explained, this is the process of this particular resolution is recommending to the city of the city commission of the city of High Springs that the land use map be changed from county ag to city rural residential. And our chair has explained as well that we don't know exactly what the density of this property will be until we get much further down the road in this process. There will be site plan submitted by the landowner if he wishes to develop his property. He may sit on it. We don't know what the developer is going to, the owner of the land, and what he's going to do with the development of his property. But if he tends to use it down the road, some of your questions will be answered when we get to site plan and preliminary plat. Then we'll know what it is that the property is going to do, the intensity and the density of what that development will be. And I think you may have mentioned it, or one of the other people online may have mentioned it, is it really depends on whether or not the property will be serviced by water and wastewater, water and sewer, city water and sewer services, city sewer. Then we will know what the density of the property will be. But until we get to that point, we don't know exactly what the density of the property will be. It may be 1 to 5, it may be more intense development. But again, and we don't know if the landowner is going to want to extend city water and city sewer to that project. That's a very, very expensive proposition. We just simply won't know these things until we get to that point down the road.
Well,
It would be highly unlikely for property this
have it go into the
size
sewer,
to
in the
extend
county.
water and sewer lines because of the tremendous expense that is associated with that. But again, these are questions that we just don't know the answers to until we get to that point and the landowner makes a decision on what he wants to do with his property. I hope that helps to clear up some of the process. I've talked to Mabel Blake about this the other day on a Zoom call. And certainly all of you residents that are in close proximity to this particular land can pay attention, be involved, get information whenever it's submitted to the city. You're entitled to that. It's a public record, and you'll be entitled to get information as this project moves along, if it moves along. So you'll need to pay attention to the city commission meetings and pay attention to planning and zoning meetings in the future, but you will certainly be apprised of what happens with this property as time goes on here and the landowner decides what it is that he wants to do with the property itself. If he decides, again, if he decides to develop it. Right now, we're simply talking about a change of the land use. And I hope I've helped clarify some of the points that have been made this evening.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, not on this item.
Okay. I am now closing the public hearing, and the board can discuss resolution number CPA 20-01. Would Yvonne or Ronald like to say anything?
Mr. Chair, I just would note that Michael Norden still has his hand raised. He may have wanted to make an additional comment. I'm not sure. He does have his hand raised.
I guess we could let him speak. He was well beyond his 3 minutes, but if we want to let him respond to that. Okay.
That's your decision, Mr. Chair. Mr. Nord, if you'd like to speak. I have unmuted you.
For 3 minutes, you're confusing me with my brother David. I wondered.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wondered if there was city water and wastewater available to the subdivision to the south of this planned development.
Which subdivision are you referring to?
It's in the city limits. The name slips my mind.
Bailey Estate?
No. It's immediately to the south and adjacent to the property that we're discussing now.
Underwood Hills?
Pardon? What did you say?
Is it Underwood Hills?
Yes, I think that's the name of it. I just wondered if there was city water and wastewater available at that subdivision.
They're well and septic in that area.
Yeah, so I thought. So where is the nearest city water and sewer connections? I mean, they're a
There's
long
water
ways.
lines on 236, so there's currently not water and wastewater out there from the city.
Okay,
Unless the developer decides to put it out there at his expense.
right. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, and I guess with that, we will now again close the public hearing. And we can discuss resolution number CPA 20-01 on the board. So if Yvonne or Ronald has anything to say.
Yes, I'd like to say something briefly.
Go ahead.
Okay. Look, I went over the study that was done back in 1985. That was an extensive study, and I'm pretty sure that I can't speak for the whole board, but I know when we met the last time, I hadn't gone over the whole thing, but I did go back and read through it. Now, I think there were a lot of mistakes on the part of the residents of the area about what was going on and how the land was going to be used. There was some mistakes on that. However, the side that I came down on was to side with the residents on that. So tonight, when we take the vote on that, that's the direction I'll go in. But there were some mistakes on that. You have to go back. The study was extensive, and you had to read in it. And what's the lady's name? Not Miss Burke, Miss Atkins, Miss Atkins. I want to thank Miss Atkins for taking that study and making a synopsis of it so that you could sit down in one reading and go through it and kind of understand what was going on. So I do want to thank her for that. But there were some misleading things that were going on with the residents that I'll take into consideration when we make the vote. Another thing I wanted to do was Miss Blake. I really do want to apologize to you for the last meeting you pointed out that some of the board had not read the study. And again, I'm not speaking for the entire board, but I had not read the study or not read it completely and understood what was going on. So I am going to apologize for that. I did subsequently sit down and read it to find out what was going on. Thank you.
Again, if I'm correct, that still doesn't have a basis on the land use that we're talking about now.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay, Ms. Yvonne, would you like to say anything?
No, I'm ready to go with the consideration is whatever you all want to do now.
Okay, I guess we'll need a motion.
Who all do we have here? Is Mike Turner here?
No, he's not. It's just Yvonne, Ronald, and myself. No motion? We need to put this guy in land use. We just can't let this sit out there stagnant like this. This has no bearing on the zoning of it. We got to give this guy a land use, so there's no reason why this shouldn't pass.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take a vote on the land use.
A second?
Well, Mr. Chair, we need to understand what Mr. Wilson's motion is. You can vote to deny the request of the application. You can vote to approve the application, or you can vote to table it again. Those are your three opportunities that you have. But you need to bring up the land use change, the future land use map change first. Then you go to the next ordinance, which is actually the change of the zoning part of it. But you need to do the land use. These have to run in conjunction with each other.
And the land use is just to recommend to the city commission that they change the land use.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
You're a recommending authority. You're not final. You're not engaging in final action. So the Planning and Zoning Board is advisory to the City Commission. That's correct.
That's my motion. Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Do I have a second?
I've heard the motion specifically. I apologize, my volume is really poor. But was your motion, Mr. Wilson, to approve the resolution number PB/LPA CPA 20-01, or was your motion to deny it? I didn't catch it.
My motion is to approve it, or to make a motion to approve it, make a motion to present it, approve it to the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Sorry for my volume. I apologize.
If it's going to city
We'll take a
council.
roll call vote for it.
We haven't got a second.
Oh,
No,
sorry, never
you
mind.
can't. Hold on. I have to keep y'all straight every meeting.
On what?
Don't move too fast. I want to go home, but I want to get us straight now. Scott, you supposed to keep everybody straight, not me.
I thought there was a motion to approve resolution number PBA LPA CPA -20-1. That's what I understood Mr. Wilson to say, but if I'm wrong about that, please do inform me.
Don't you have to have a second to send it to city commission?
He's asking.
Yes, we're asking for a second.
Okay, you don't have, Mr. Alderman can't, the chairperson can't second it. You only have 3
Correct.
people
We
here.
have a
now.
second on the moment.
Excuse me?
Yes,
I
unless-
said, correct, we need a second for this item. There's no.
That's
second
right. So
current.
hold on, don't move me too fast.
I'm sorry, Mr. John, I couldn't hear you.
I can deny it now.
Yes, you can, but also you can understand this has no bearing on the zoning. This is just a land use. He has now
I
been annexed
know
into the
what it
city.
is. I know what it is, and don't tell me what to do.
I didn't.
So the chair.
I've been here long enough. I know what to do. Now I'm gonna second it, but I'm gonna keep y'all straight too.
All right, we have a
Mr.
first
Yuan,
and a
I have no
second.
problem with you jumping in and doing that. It's very hard for me to hear what is going on. So I have no problem with it. And I think I heard you say you were going to second the motion.
I am now.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is don't move too fast before it is done.
I agree.
I
All right,
second
we have
the
a first and
motion.
a second. Can we do a roll call, please?
Roll call vote.
Is there
Donald
any further
Mulray.
comment on the motion that's been made? So if there's anyone that wants to comment, Mr. Chair, we have to ask for that now before.
Yes,
the vote.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Would there be any more comment?
Mr. Chair, if there is, we ask the participants within Zoom to either raise their hand function and we'll move them over.
Okay.
But by y'all
Okay,
around
no.
rules of order, okay?
We're working under difficult circumstances here.
Mr. Chair, I see no hands raised. Oh, I take that back. Ms. Flake would like to speak. Ms. Flake, I'm moving you over to speak. Just unmute yourself and you'll have your 3 minutes.
Okay. Oh, I guess my question was, are you asking for comments from the public or comments from you guys there? Who you
It
asking
should be-
comments from?
I think it's just from us, isn't it?
It's
That's
comments from the public now, Mr. Chair. So if anybody in attendance of the meeting wishes to comment on the motion that is on the floor, which is to approve resolution number PB/LPA CPA 20-01, this is the opportunity for any of the citizens that are in attendance to use the raise your hand function, and then our chair will call on you one by one. And we
Okay,
see
yes.
Mabel has her raise the hand function. So Mabel, this is your time to comment, please.
Okay. My final comment is that in relation to your, as I said before, your concurrency management assessment, and as you all said, y'all go into that deeper, need to not be so generic and need to be really related to the property that you're talking about instead of general. That's something y'all can look at in the future. I'm just saying it should not be as general as it is. And it involves the traffic and it involves all that. And you own 2741 and 441. And to me, it should be more generally based to the area that is in reference to.
Noted, but I still think that doesn't have anything to do with this resolution at this point. Am I correct?
It
That-
does.
I mean, you know,
Some things are-
submitted, we can't do an actual study.
Right, correct. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Well, let me finish. If you can't
go
do
ahead.
an actual discussion, then that statement or whatever should not even be in your CPA 20-01.
I'm sorry, what, can you repeat that?
I don't see it on here.
It's in there.
Ms. Blake, can you repeat that?
Go to your 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph where it says whereas, and read the last two sentences, please. I'll read that whole statement.
Last 2 seconds.
So if I'm reading it right, it just says that we consider all comments received regarding the currency management assessment, which we have. So, but it's still a very general document until something is submitted. That's when further testing will be done.
Okay.
Any more comments?
Mr. Chair, I see no further hands raised at this time.
Okay, I guess we'll close the discussion on resolution number CPA 20-01. At this time, I guess we'll need a motion. Or no, I guess it's a roll call vote.
Yeah, we have the motion, so it'll be roll call vote.
Roll call
So,
vote.
Ronald Wilson,
Yay.
Yvonne Andrews,
Yay.
Donald Alderman.
Yay.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, I guess the next one is resolution number Z 20-01. If the attorney would read that out for us.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to do so. This is resolution number PB/LPA Z 20-01. A resolution of the Plan Board of the City of High Springs, Florida, serving also as the local planning agency of the City of High Springs, Florida, recommending to the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, approval of an amendment of more than 10 contiguous acres of land to the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code pursuant to an application Z 20-01 by the property owners of said acreage, providing for rezoning from industrial to R1 residential of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and provided an effective date. Appropriate motion will be to pass resolution number PBA/LPA Z 20-01. Of course, the motion can be to deny or the motion can be to table. So that will be the motion at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair. And again, if anybody new has entered into the webinar, the Zoom chat room, if you are new and wish to speak to this particular item, if you'll raise your hand right now, and I will swear you, because this is also quasi-judicial. Meaning that you have to be sworn if you wish to comment. If you're new, if you've already been sworn, then we can go ahead and have your commentary. But if you're new to the meeting, you will need to raise your hand so you can be sworn. Does not appear that I can see anybody who is new to the meeting.
That's correct, Mr. Attorney. We have nothing, no hands raised at this time.
Okay, I guess we can close the public input.
So at this point, Mr. Chair, city staff can give an overview of the application as to this particular resolution.
So for this resolution, it's very simple. It's just rezoning a piece of property from industrial to R1.
Would you like to discuss that between Mr. Ronald or Ms. Yvonne? Anything about this one?
I don't know if the applicant is present this evening, Mr. Chair, but if the applicant
Well, that's
wishes
correct, yeah.
to present any further information, then certainly he's allowed to do that or able to do that at this time as
Yeah.
well.
That is correct. Yes. Is the applicant online?
The applicant for this project is not online.
Okay, now I guess we'll close that. And then the public input, there's no one there for that. So we're closing the public hearing on that, and we can discuss that among the board members on resolution number Z 20-01.
Right now,
Anything from-
because I'm reluctant to speak because I need a little bit more detail. Because the only thing I know about the property at this point is that it's a big lot across the road from where I live. But that's about all I know about it. I know there are some animal pastures, cow pastures out there and a few residents and everything, but that's all I know about it. So I'd like to have a little bit more information before I start to discuss it.
What information would you like on that?
Say that once more?
Sorry, I was asking what kind of information you want on it because it is currently just cow pasture, zoned industrial. And I mean, there's really not any additional information that's here unless you have a specific question.
Christy, I don't know if you have a screen share function, if that's something that would be available to us. But if you do have that function, perhaps that would help assist Mr. Wilson's questions if we do have that.
We're pulling up a map. Give me 1 second.
Perfect. Thank you. So if you have a map of the property and surrounding areas, that sort of thing, it might help assist him.
What else? A couple of businesses. What are we doing with it?
At this point, we don't know. We're just rezoning it. From, what is it, from commercial? From industrial, so it won't be a factory, to residential.
To residential, okay.
Who said factory?
It's not going to be a factory if you're taking away from commercial.
Okay.
Okay, so we're about to share the screen where I have outlined the parcel on Map Genius. You'll be able to kind of see the area that this project is in. We're just getting that technical side going. Okay, so we've put the screen share up. Can you all see the map?
Yes, thank you, Christy.
All right, so it's off of 222nd Street, near Railroad. It's a large parcel of land. Currently, I believe cows are out there. We're just rezoning it from industrial to residential, so R1. And in general, with that sort of rezone or that zoning, it is for residential uses, so single family dwelling, something like that. But currently nothing is proposed, but that's in general what it is used for.
Christie, is north, the top of the map that you're showing, is that due north?
Correct.
It looks like the south property that's adjacent to this particular request is residential, and also the property to the east is residential. And then also the property which is in the quadrant to the north and west would be residential as well. Is that correct?
Correct. So I've highlighted the zoning districts that are around it. So that one gray chunk is industrial, and then everything around it is residential. So either R2, R1, or R3.
Thank you, Christie.
Does Mr. Wilson have any more questions? Is he muted or?
It's currently muted, yes. Mr. Wilson, you're muted if you're trying to talk to us.
That was enough initial information. I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Yvonne,
Yes,
anything you'd like to add?
none whatsoever. It's right down the street from me. I know where it is.
Okay, I guess that will end the discussion. Is there anyone else that would like to? I guess we need a motion on this to accept
No,
or
we
to
can't. I
deny.
thought- Why should we accept it when they're not saying anything about it? We
What?
need to
Excuse
accept
me?
this. We need to accept it.
No, the
I'll
options
make
are
a
to
mo- I make,
deny.
say what, Chris?
Sorry, the options are to accept or deny, or I suppose you could take.
I make a motion, we accept it.
Second.
I make a motion, we accept Z2020-01.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any more discussion? Guys got anybody?
And now,
No, it's right.
Mr. Chair, if the board is finished with their deliberations, we will need to open it to the members of the public, and they should again use the raise their hand function.
Yeah, gotta remember to say
And
that.
Also, it looks like we now have a call-in listener, so if that person wishes to speak, you'll need to speak up and let us know if you want to comment on this motion.
Is that the call in? He would have to swear in, correct?
Mr.
If
Chair, I
he's
brought
just
it.
asking a question or making a comment, then at this stage.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, I brought in the phone number ending in 2344 to allow to talk. The function over the phone to raise the hand can be difficult sometimes. So the phone caller on, if you would like to speak, you are live with the board.
We're going to assume that you do not wish to comment on the motion, which is to pass resolution number PB/LPA Z20-01, unless you speak up now.
They hung up.
Mr. Chair, they did hang up, yes.
Okay, so any more hands raised?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, then I guess we'll close the discussion. And we had a first and a second, so I guess we'll do a roll call vote.
All right, roll call vote. Ronald Wilson,
Aye.
Yvonne Andrews,
Yay.
Donald Alderman.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, the next one is number 2, resolution number Z 20-02, rezoning of double B. If the attorney would like to read that.
Yes, sir. This is resolution slash LPA Z 20-02. It's a resolution of Plan Board of the City of High Springs, Florida, serving also as the local planning agency of the City of High Springs, Florida, recommending to the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, approval of an amendment of more than 10 contiguous acres of land to the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code pursuant to an application Z 20-02 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for rezoning from county agricultural to city R1 residential of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass resolution number PB-LPA Z 20-02. You can move to approve it, move to deny it, move to table the measure that's before you. And at this time, Mr. Chair, we will have a city overview of the application and present the case as to the application. Of course, if there's any ex parte communication that you've had or any of the board members have had that is in addition to what you've already described, now would be the time to do that.
I've already disclosed all communications I had prior in the beginning of the meeting.
And I think Ronald and Ms. Yvonne also said that they had had no communication with regard to this particular matter either. So at this point, the city can go ahead and present the application. Christy, if it's available to you, if we could screen share again, I thought that was very helpful to the citizenry so they can acclimate, and our board, so they can acclimate as to exactly where this property is. I don't know if we have maps of where the sewer and water lines exist in proximity to this particular project. That would be helpful if we could screen share that. I don't know if that's available to us, but if it is, if you can screen share that as well.
So we don't have the utility maps, but I'll pull it up on the map so you can see the area. It's the same project from earlier that we were discussing the land use. This part is just for the zoning. So give me one moment, I'll zoom in on that area. Okay, we're gonna screen share, give me one moment. Okay, so this is the area that Double B is in. It's comprised of these two parcels right here, the one that's highlighted and the one directly north, which is right here, along 210. The closest utility would have been on 236. So it'd be somewhere over here for 236 for water. I'm not sure about sewer. So that's the closest utilities I'm aware of. And basically this
previous screen, if you would, Christy, and so we can get an idea of approximately how much distance it is. So the on the very bottom left-hand corner of the screen, it shows a distance map at 0.3 and 0.6 miles. So just estimating that from where your cursor was as to the existing water and sewer, it looks like it is well in excess of a half mile at least, if not maybe a full mile. I'm trying to gauge where it was that you were saying compared to where this property is.
So it looks like the water main would be over here on by 210 and County Road 236. So somewhere around here for water. Fire hydrant located there. That's all the information I've got on utilities currently.
Has everybody had enough time to look at it?
Use the distance tool and it shows about how many feet away from the fire hydrant at the property would be.
So over a mile.
Christy, when you talk, could you just speak up a little bit more? It'll help me on my end if you don't mind.
Of course, I'll talk a little louder.
Thank you, Christy. That's much better. So I think the chair said it's a little over a mile estimate from where existing water and sewer is.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, if there's anyone that wasn't sworn in earlier that wants to speak on this, make yourself known by waving your hand on was it wave hand button?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the raise hand function.
Scott, why were we over on 236?
I'm sorry, Mom, what was the question about 236? We couldn't quite hear you.
Why were we over on 236? We still weren't over on 202?
Yes, we were. She was showing you the distance from 236 to the property on 202.
But she was talking about fire hydrogen from 236?
Right, she was trying to show the nearest water supply, which was over a mile away from the property.
From the Tillman Acres?
No, this is the Double B property that's off of 210. I was illustrating how far away the nearest water utility would have been.
We going back.
We're on the zoning for Double B, so it's in relation to the same project from earlier, the first unfinished business item. This is the zoning, so the pair to the land use.
This is,
Basically, yeah, this is basically just taking the county designation and turning it into a city designation. So it's currently county agriculture going to city R1.
is there anyone that raised their hand to get sworn in?
One moment, Chair.
Yes, we do have Mr. Norton, I believe.
Didn't he already swear in?
Yes,
Correct.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, well then there's no one new to be sworn in. Let's open for a public hearing, public input.
Mr. Busby, if you wish to speak on the matter further, this will be your time to do that.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Attorney, I've brought Mr. Busby in if you'd like to speak.
I'm here. I don't necessarily have anything to add at this time. Be open for questions later.
Okay, at that point then, we'll go for public input. If you'll please hit your raise your hand button.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Michael Norton has raised his hand. I brought him over first to speak. Mr. Norton, you will unmute yourself, sir. We'll begin your 3 minutes.
They let you come in again, so.
Okay. What are the lot sizes for R1 residential in the absence of public water and sewer system? The minimum lot size.
For our comprehensive plan for that sort of zoning, it would be one dwelling unit per 5 gross acres for well and septic.
Right, okay, all right. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments?
No, other than that, we have heard from Mr. Busby that he's planning on building, putting a lot more lots than that on this piece of the property.
Since nothing's been submitted to us, regardless of whatever his current intent is, it will have to undergo review and make sure it's compliant with all of our current codes. So that's going to be at a later date once something's submitted. Nothing can be approved unless it is, compliant with our code.
Well, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Chair, Mabel Blake has raised her hands. Ms. Blake, I've brought you over to speak. If you could please unmute yourself and you'll be here 3 minutes.
Marking. What I would like to know is, a resident was not able to be here, and she left me a statement of some questions, and I would like to know whether or not I can read those questions or not.
Go ahead, Ms. Mabel, that's fine.
Okay, these are from Wendelin Marshall. And she's, for her first statement, a question is, on March 12, 2020, Mr. G. Busby stated that we, the property owners, would take care of the roadway for Northwest 210th Avenue, Northwest 205th Street, and Northwest 202nd Avenue. That is a false statement. When did I speak to Mr. Busby and tell him I would take care of the roadway? Did other owners tell him this? That was the first question. Second, I looked the information online about Mr. Busby getting an easement next to other person's land. That is only if the person doesn't have personal access to their land. Only the government can take someone's property for a major highway, not a business or a personal gain. That's her second. The third, you made a statement, y'all know me. A, I don't know you. B, you made this personal, but this isn't personal. You are a business, an organization, economic system where goods and services are exchanged for money. C, business has no feelings. The fourth statement, you told the city of High Springs, Florida, false statements under oath. And these are statements from Wendelin Marshall. And she wanted it to be on record if it could be read. And that's what I was doing at this point in time.
Hey, let's leave that at that, because you don't know what Mr. Busby's intent was. And I don't know whether Mr. Busby is a developer, a landowner, or what, but you don't know that. And things like that change over time, because a developer goes out there, they might start out with a pretty good sized lot, but if they're making money, they're going to decrease the size of the lot or whatever. So he doesn't know that.
No,
So
I was just reading the statements. That's what I was asked to do, and
okay,
y'all.
we'll Mr. Attorney, can the statement go into the record? Well, we're gonna leave it at that.
Whatever his claims are, as far as the development of this property, he still has to go through processes that require him to get approval at every step and way.
Yeah, there you go.
And then it's specifically regarding the roads, they are county-owned roads, so he will have to go to the county for those items. Traffic studies, things like that. So there's definitely more steps for that. This rezoning has nothing to do with the roads. That item will be down the road if something is proposed. Currently, nothing is proposed.
Is there anybody else that would like to? Go ahead.
Yeah, let's don't impute bad intent to Mr. Busby. Let's see where it goes, and then if it's approved later on, okay. But you know, let's not impute bad intent to the man.
Mr. Chair, Garrett Busby has raised his hand to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Busby, if you want to unmute yourself.
Well, I'm terribly confused by the comments that were just read about comments that I made that I know I did not make. If I want to go on record to state that I did not say that I was going to take care of all the roads that she named out. I said in the last meeting, and we'll have minutes of that, is that we would look, toward doing some sort of prorated contribution if we decide to develop lots. But at this time, we're paying that same special assessment that everybody else is as a landowner on the road. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak? Click your raise your hand.
Mr. Chair, we have Mr. David Coven. I believe he raised his hand first.
Okay.
He lives around there.
Mr. Coven, you've been moved over. If you will unmute yourself.
Okay. I don't know about all the claims Mr. Busby made or Gwendolyn
Am I recording?
stated. But one of the things that I'm kind of curious with is this is confusion that Mr. Busby raised at the last meeting when he was asked how many homes he was going to put on there. And at the time, he said something like, well, it'll be from, the lots will vary in size. And I got thrown off by the regulation that said gross acres. I don't know what that means, if it's an average or if it's a total. Now, Christie has clarified that for me, that in the case of the land without city sewer and water, it's 1 acre, 1 house per 5 acres. And I just want to know if that's what you're approving tonight.
No, so there is nothing proposed for a subdivision. There's nothing like that. This is just the zoning classification. Regardless of Mr. Busby's intent, anything that is proposed by him for a subdivision would have to go through review. So even if he says he wants to have something 3 to 6 acres, that doesn't matter. He'll have to be up to code. This is nothing to do with the amount of lots, because nothing is proposed. So this is just the classification of land.
All right, that's all I wanted to make that's all I wanted to make sure I understood.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has their hand raised?
Mr. Chair, David Norton has his hand raised.
Mike, are we on?
Yes.
Are we on?
Yes, sir, you're on.
Okay, my question is, has there been a traffic study actually done on County 210 there to find out how many more homes and how much more traffic that road actually can support? And I know I got a letter from Mr. Busby that says that it's well within the limit for him to build 16 homes there, but I'm not really sure if there's been any official study done on that, either by the county or the city.
So currently there's only that very general concurrency management assessment, which is very general, but there will be traffic studies done later once something is proposed. No studies can be done until something is proposed.
So no studies can be done for a particular number of dwellings before they're actually proposed, huh?
Correct. Right now, it's just a piece of land until Mr. Busby submits plans or lets us know how many lots. He has to actually submit something in order for the process to go forward with traffic studies and any of the additional studies that would come from that. So until that point, nothing has been done.
Will a traffic study be done when a number is proposed?
Correct. Yes, traffic studies will be done
Okay.
once something is proposed.
Okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
It depends on the number of. homes
Nothing,
that will be-
when that's ready to be done, nothing can be built out there until the study has been done and it's been approved. When it starts out, The developer might say 1 house per acre, and that's good. But the thing is, if the developer is making money, then it's going to go to 2 houses per acre, then 4 houses per acre. And before you know it, it's down to whatever the minimum square footage is for a lot if the developer is making money, and you can't stop that. But he's
Actually,
not saying it.
Because it has to be up to code for us. So if our code states that the lot that has well and septic is only allowed to be a minimum of 5 acres, it has to be that in order to pass through our process. It has to be compliant with code to go forward.
Okay, my mistake, I didn't know that.
correct. If he can say what he wants, or he can want everything, but he still has to pass our codes. He wouldn't be able to go in there and put a house on every half acre if the codes don't allow that. And right now, our codes don't allow that.
Can we move forward, please?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Long, what did you say?
Can we move forward, please?
Okay, then if there's no one from public wanting to speak anymore, we're going to close for the public hearing. And I guess we just had our discussion from the board. I guess I would need a motion to either accept, deny, or table resolution number Z20-02.
Make a motion.
Mr. Wilson. Repeat.
I make a motion, we accept.
Second.
Need a second? And a second? No. Will there be any discussion from the public on this?
Use the raise your hand function.
We had discussion.
You'll raise your hands.
Mr. Chair, we have no answers this time.
Okay, this time we'll close it for discussion and do a roll call vote.
Ronald Wilson,
Aye.
Yvonne Andrews,
Aye.
Donald Galder.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
All right. Now we'll move on to resolution Z20-03. If the attorney would read that for us.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to do so. This is resolution number PB/LPA-Z 20-03, a resolution of the Plan Board of the City of High Springs, Florida, serving also as the local planning agency of the City of High Springs, Florida, recommending to the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, an approval of amendment of more than 10 contiguous acres of land to the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code pursuant to an application Z20-03 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for rezoning from IND industrial to C3 commercial of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass resolution number PB/LPA-Z 20-03 as read by title only. You can move to approve. You can deny the application by your resolution, or you can table it to a date certain in the future. And I see that Christie's already got our screen share up, so she's ahead of the process. If there's anybody that has entered into the chat room, again, this is a quasi judicial matter. And anyone that has come into the Zoom webinar that wishes to speak on this matter and wishes to testify for or against the application, if you'll raise your hand, and then I will swear you in. If you've been sworn before, then you're duly sworn. But if you're new, raise your hand and we will swear you right now.
Mr. Attorney, I can see that the applicant is in the room, so it'll be Dennis Lee and Chuck Davis. I don't believe, let me check to see if, has Chuck Davis been sworn in? I know Dennis Lee has.
I'm sorry, Christy, I couldn't hear what you said, but I see Carrie.
Sorry, I was just checking to see if they had already been sworn in. It's the applicant that's in the room. There's two of them, Chuck Davis and Dennis Lee.
Okay, and that person has not been sworn before, I would assume, correct?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Davis,
Mr.
if you'll
Attorney.
raise your right hand and you will be duly sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Ms. Lee, were you sworn previously? Do we need to swear you in as well?
They were sworn in. It's Dennis Lee, but the name shows it's Carrie Lee. They were sworn in.
I didn't hear. Yes, she needs to be sworn? or
Yes.
no?
Yes, they were sworn in.
She was sworn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. At this time, Christie, if you will go ahead and present the application.
All right, so I've already got the screen share up. So the parcels in question are the one that's highlighted and the ones directly below it. This project is in the same area as one of the previous ones. It's zoned industrial. They are rezoning to C3. This item actually has appeared before, went through the process, and didn't fully finish the process due to an error, a clerical error on our end, so it was never fully signed. So this is basically just remedying an issue from several years ago.
Okay. Would the applicants like to speak?
Yes, this is Dennis Lee. I'm on Carrie's computer. There's been a lot of paperwork on this over the last 15 some odd years, and I'd just like to read one little statement that sort of clarifies or summarizes it, you know, not knowing what everybody understands or what they might have in their package. So basically, in 2005, application was made on this property and approved by the city to change from industrial to commercial. During this time, there were only 3 categories available: industrial, commercial, and residential. The following year, the city received and approved 4 additional applications and transmitted all to the Department of Community Affairs, DCA, in November of that year, 2006, for their comments before final adoption. There was a lot of development activity and changes during this period of time, partly as a result of the expanding sewer system project during this period. Plus, the city was starting the preliminary meetings on the DCA 10-year required citywide comprehensive future land use plan amendment process. This ultimately resulted in the creation of new categories as some of the 9 that presently exist. Our property land use was ultimately administratively changed to mixed use, MU. It was recently brought to our attention that the zoning was never changed to commercial and remains to this date industrial, which is inconsistent and non-compatible with the mixed use land use. We agree with the city's consultants and staff's review that C3 is the appropriate zoning and respectively request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? I guess, was there anyone else up there? That was with the owners?
Yeah, that's just.
Oh, those 2, okay.
Yeah.
Then at this time, we'll open for public discussion. If there's anyone that wants to speak on this that is sworn in, you can just click your raise your hand.
No hands have been raised.
Okay, then we'll close the public discussion. And does the board would like to discuss this? Well, if there's no discussion on that, we need a motion to either approve, deny, or table this resolution.
Was the clerical error corrected?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Question. How far back to the residential area will this commercial property be?
So it'll encompass the whole project area. So it'll go right up against where everything around it. If you look at the map, everything here. This is all residential here, but this is C3, so it is allowable as a rezoning because it's not spot zoning. So it's surrounded by residential, all except right here. Did you have any other questions, Ms. Vaughn?
Would you like to say anything, Ronald or Ms. Yvonne? Okay, I guess the discussion is closed. We need a motion on whether to approve, deny, or table this resolution. Did we lose them?
No, they're still there. They're just, you're muted. If you're trying to talk to us, you're currently muted.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
I had asked, was there any type of preparation for any type of buffer to be put up against that residential area?
That would be after they would have to provide that with the site plan.
If they eventually submit something, it'll be done during that process. So this is
Okay,
just classification.
that'll be later on.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to find out because I know that that type of operation, what it does. Okay, move on.
And those,
I lost-
you know, setbacks for that zoning. So there will be setbacks and then whatever buffer is hashed out later. That'll be at a later date when something's submitted.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, we lost the sound for a few minutes.
She said, go ahead again, Christy. Your sound dropped out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you need me to repeat it?
Yes,
no, she's
whatever you
got it.
said after, whatever you said after that.
so- I was just letting you know that all that information will be dealt with later. So currently, we're not going to be looking at any of that. This is just classification of land. The applicant, once they submit something, it'll be done then for a buffer and things like that.
Okay,
Okay, we still need a motion and a second on this of either approve, deny, or table.
I make a motion, we approve Z20-03. Say it again.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call vote?
Don't we have to ask for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
discussion?
That is correct. We now we open for public discussion again. If anybody would like to discuss this, would you please click your raise hand?
No raised hands.
Okay, then we are closed in the public discussion. And we have a first and a second, and I guess we'll do a roll call vote.
Ronald Wilson,
Yay.
Yvonne Andrews,
Yes,
Donald Alderman.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, at this point, we're moving on to item 4 of new business, Springfield preliminary plat attached. If the attorney would fill us in on the information on that.
Mr. Chair, thank you. There is not, for this item, there's not a resolution in front of the board. But this has to do with a preliminary plat that is submitted with respect to the Springfield subdivision. And the per our LDC, the process, this is sort of the second step of a 3-part process. The site plan review committee has already met, which consists of our city manager, planning director, building official, public works director, fire chief, and police chief. And they review the preliminary plat that's been submitted, that's before us tonight. And they make a recommendation. They have written a letter to the site plan review committee has written a letter to CHW, who is here tonight on behalf of the applicant. And so approving the preliminary plat or recommending approval. So what happens tonight from the plan board's perspective is we will enter into another quasi judicial process. And in doing so, the plan board will consider the preliminary plat that we'll hear about and determine whether they concur with the site plan review committee's approval of the plat, or if they have any recommendations for modifications that would be an appropriate motion. Or a third option would be to recommend denial of the plat. Whatever, if it's denied, then the plan board should cite some reasons why it would be denied. And those recommendations are then going to be submitted to our city commission for consideration. So with that background, I do know that David Morin from CHW is here. We do want to swear in Mr. Morin, and if there is anybody else who has not already been sworn in tonight, this would be the appropriate time if they intend to offer any type of testimony or evidence. Mr. Morin, can you hear us?
We just added him into the room, so he'll just need to unmute himself and he'll be able to speak.
Am I unmuted?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Morin, could you just please state your name for the record?
My name is David Morin with CHW.
Okay, and if you could raise your right hand.
Right hand raised.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you are duly sworn. And with that, I will also ask the question to our members of the planning board. Is there anybody who's had any ex-parte communications with anybody regarding this particular preliminary plat or this subdivision?
I have had no communications with anyone on this subject.
Okay, Mr. Wilson?
I have had no communications with anybody on this committee.
Okay, Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, with the city.
Okay, could you just, for purposes of full disclosure, could you just give us just a real brief synopsis of the discussions you've had and who you spoke with at the city about this?
I just want to know what was going on.
Okay, is there anything in that discussion that would cause you to be impartial with respect to any of the evidence that we're going to hear tonight?
Yes.
In other words, is there anything in those conversations that might unfairly prejudice you in one way or another with respect to the evidence that we're about to hear? And the only reason I'm asking because
I can't be partial. I was just trying to find out what was going on, what was it in reference to. That was all.
Okay, so let's proceed. Then we'll, if Ms. Christie could just give us a brief overview from the city staff's perspective of what we have, and then we can open it up for Mr. Morin to present.
So I'm actually screen sharing right now the plat that was submitted to us. Basically, this document has already been reviewed by the site plan review committee, which you already let us know who the members were on it. It's also been reviewed by a surveyor from Kimley Horn, and they generated their own comments, which were addressed. So basically, everyone's already got this plat set. And since the engineer is here, he can answer any technical questions on it.
Okay, would the applicant like to talk?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't really have a formal presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions. Wendy's correct. I mean, we went through the review process. We did get some comments. We did address the comments. So I think we're ready to go.
Okay. If there's anybody in the public that hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak that hasn't been sworn in, please do a raise your hand.
No hands are raised.
No hands. Okay, we're going to close public discussion. Does the board like to discuss this?
Yeah.
Go ahead, we can't quite hear you.
No.
Oh, okay, then we'll close it for. All right, we're closing the board discussion. We need a motion on whether to accept, deny, or table this preliminary plat attachment.
So much we accept the plat attachment. Say it again. Say it again.
Second.
Okay, we got a first and a second. We need to open for any more further discussion from the public or the board. If you want to speak, click your raise hand.
No hands are raised.
Okay, then we're going to close open discussion. We have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call vote?
Ronald Wilson,
Yay.
Yvonne Andrews,
Yes.
Donald Alderman.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
That takes care of all our unfinished new business. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion we adjourn.
Second.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, this hearing is closed.
Thank you
Concluded
and
our
good
hearing
night.
at
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
23 hours.